Have you seen all the episodes so far of A Game of Thrones? Have you read every single book in A Song of Ice and Fire? And yet you want more. You need your Game of Thrones Westeros craving? Well, this could be for you. Hello and welcome to the Friday Fantasy Show from the Bottled Imp, exploring the realms of fantasy. My name is Ken Boyter and today we are looking at George R.R. Martin and his book, The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I hesitated when I said book because I was going to say novel, but it's not actually one complete novel. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is actually a compilation. It's 3 novellas that have previously been published, starting way back in 1998. So I was quite excited about this, but I didn't know they were novellas. So when I read it, I thought it was meant to be one continuous novel. And when I found that out afterwards, it made better sense. Anyway, let's check it out. So, just what is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms all about? Well, as I say, it is 3 novellas, but every single one of them actually charts the fortunes or misfortunes of 2 unlikely heroes. One is named Dunk, and the other one is called Egg. And we basically see them almost 100 years before the beginning of A Song of Ice and Fire, or Game of Thrones as it's known, for the TV show. So the 3 novellas, the first one is called The Hedge Knight, and that was actually published in 1998. And then we got The Sworn Sword, which was published in 2003. And then we got The Mystery Knight, which was published in 2010. Now, as I say, they follow the fortunes or misfortunes of he becomes a knight. That's not really spoiling it. That's actually on the blurb on the back of the book anyway. And so Dunk is actually, his real name is Duncan. And he has been a squire, and he actually has the misfortune of seeing his knight die. And so just before his knight has died, he also becomes knighted. So therefore he becomes Sir Duncan the Tall, because he is tall. You see how that works? And what happens is, in the first story, we learn, that's The Hedge Knights, published in 1998, in the Legends anthology, edited by Robert Silberberg. He actually acquires a squire called Egg. He's a bit reluctant. He thinks he doesn't really need one. But Egg is a young boy who's quite persistent. He has dreams that he also wants fame and glory and wants to be, making a difference in the world. So he is very excited. He wants to be a squire. Now, I'm not going to do any spoilers. So what I will say about The Hedge Knight is that is basically the sort of introductory story that introduces us to Dunk and Egg. And we do learn about the background of Dunk and why he is a hedge knight, which is different for other knights. A hedge knight is basically seen as the lowest of the low, and they've got a really bad reputation. They kind of borderline being thieves. And as you can imagine, hedge knights, because they're not sworn to any one lord, so they don't have a house to live in. They actually live in hedges, hence hedge knight. And therefore they are prone, some do, go in for stealing and robbing people. So they're dubious to whether or not they're true knights, they're real knights. So other knights will look down upon them and, laugh if they claim that they're going to be a sir. But a knight can knight another person, so you can create another knight. And so because his knight, which was Sir Alan, I think, Alan, there we go, me and names, Sir Alan, he's a genuine knight, and he did knight Dunk. So it is legitimate, it does stand up. And he meets Egg in, obviously unfortunate circumstances, you can imagine, and Egg becomes his squire. And it forces, this story is a really good look at how somebody needs to transform and grow into their role, you could argue their destiny. Because Dunk has to learn about now becoming a knight, although he's been around a knight all his life. And also Egg has to learn about becoming a squire, and he's got a very different opinion of what a squire actually is to Dunk. And then we move on to the second novella. That's The Sworn Sword. That was published in 2003 in the anthology Legends 2, again edited by Robert Silberberg. And this time Dunk and Egg, because again they're roaming knights, they're hedge knights, they're sort of roaming through the land, and they come across this dam, this stream that has been blocked. And there's a knight, Sir Brennus the Brown, who is actually his lord owns that stream, and there's a problem because there's another castle that have blocked up the dam, and they're diverting the water away from their crops into their own castle to actually, divert the water, and they don't give a damn. So, there you go, look at that pun. So basically, Dunk needs money, because obviously being a knight, you do need to eat, and obviously, you need to keep up your armour repaired, and you maybe need to repair your swords, that kind of thing. So they are always looking for an opportunity to make money, and therefore he offers to help Sir Brennus the Brown in order to help get the dam back. And again, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but let's just say they do get mixed up, but not exactly how they thought it was all going to go. And then we got The Mystery Knight, which is in 2010, and that was in the anthology Warriors, and that was edited by George R.R. Martin and Gardner Dozois. Sorry, it's a name I can't pronounce. And this one we see Sir Duncan entering a jousting competition, a tourney. And there's a very special prize. Not only is there money and there's maybe a little bit of fame attached to this and glory, there is also a dragon's egg up for grabs. Now, these dragon's eggs, if you have read the novels or you know about the TV show, they are quite rare in Westeros. And so obviously this is going to attract quite a good crowd, and it's all to do with a celebration. There's a Lord Butterwell and a Frey of the Crossing, who are, again, they're getting married because of political reasons. Now, throughout all of these stories, you do start to learn more about the history of Westeros, and you start to recognise some of the names that have already been mentioned in A Song of Ice and Fire and A Game of Thrones. So that's a really nice touch. And they do cover various different themes, and one of which is principles. Each one, there does seem to be an underlying principle factor in each of the stories, and George R.R. Martin starts to explore what it means to have principles, and where do they come from? Are they your lord's principles, and you're just kind of taking them on, and you don't really believe in them? Are they your own principles that might differ if you're a knight and you've sworn allegiance to your lords, but then you kind of think, well, I'm getting paid by them, so I ought to have their principles? Or is it something more you're born with, your own moral code, your own compass? Is it religion? Are you very religious, and therefore you're taking on the church's principles, whatever they may be? And so he does a really good job of exploring that. And obviously the principles differ from character to character, because some people don't have principles and don't have scruples, and they seem perfectly fine with that. So why is one person maybe dogged if they make what they consider a wrong choice, and other people just go, yeah, that's fine, I don't mind doing that action, and I have no principles with it, I have no problem with that? Why does it affect some people and not others? There's also the themes of class that run all through these novellas as well, and it's the importance of how your background and heritage actually have a massive influence on who you are and your future, and how others see you, and how your life can either be enhanced by your background or made worse. And if you think about it, if you're high-born, if you're noble-born, you could be the most incompetent and useless and maybe nasty person, yet your position will always be assured, unless there's a rebellion or something and you're overthrown. But people that support you will continue to support you because of your position, because obviously if you're high-born, not obviously, but you may have wealth, and obviously wealth comes into class as well. But it's more than wealth, it's more to do with your prestige and your family. And people that have read the Game of Thrones and watched the TV show, they know that plays a big part in this, the political intrigue and families, these grand families that have wealth and prestige. And again, that ties in with loyalty. So is it real loyalty? Because that's another theme that runs through each novella. Are you loyal to someone because they're paying you? Or are you loyal to them because you believe in what they believe in? You believe they're upstanding people? Or I guess if you have dubious morals and scruples, you might follow somebody that equally has dubious morals and scruples. So they share your beliefs. And so there's also the conflict, the inner conflict that Dunk, not so much Egg seems to sort of avoid this, but this conflict between doing the right thing for your own morals and then the right thing, or the perceived right thing, for someone else's morals. And of course, if you follow somebody blindly, if you swear allegiance to your Lord and they start doing things that you don't agree with, at what point, if ever, do you turn against them? So that brings up the whole betrayal aspect. And of course, if you've got beliefs and you've got morals and you think, everyone that has that will think that they are right. And so he starts questioning, yeah, but your enemies will also think that they are right and God is on their side. So that doesn't make them any less of a person. It's just that you don't necessarily understand. You'll just think, yes, well, they're wrong. And so he questions that whole right, wrong, and the morality of life in general. Now, the writing in these novellas is wonderful. It's very clear, it's very economic. There's so much warmth that runs through this, and humour as well. And Game of Thrones, the TV show, and the novels as well, that they are quite adult. There's quite adult themes that run through this. This one isn't so much adult. Yes, there's violence, and yes, there's talk of sex, and maybe even a bit of sex, but it's nowhere near as gratuitous as it is in the actual novels and the TV show. And that doesn't lessen it, it just makes it slightly different. I would say that it could be a younger readership could read these, and as a parent you wouldn't necessarily be so kind of worried about what they're reading. I like the fact that, again, it's just submerging yourself in the world of Westeros. The way that George R.R. Martin has created his world is beautiful. It's very believable, and of course if it's fantasy it has to be believable. There's so much history involved. You do feel like you are in a real world, and it's just nice. It feels like, you're slipping back into a nice comfy cardigan, It's that familiarity, but then reading more of being in that world, and I really love that. And overall, I absolutely adored these novellas. And as I say, I read it, I thought it was a novel, so I was slightly confused because after one, it kind of didn't follow on directly with it. But it didn't lose me too much. It wasn't too much time had passed by. But when I found out they're novellas, it makes a bit more sense. So obviously, when you read them, go in with that in your mind. There's strong characters. He does have a magnificent way of creating characters that are believable, that are warm, that are lovely. And also obviously the ones that aren't so nice, but you can understand they're quite 3D, they're quite well-rounded. No one's purely evil, and no one's purely good. There's always that dilemma, there's always that inner conflict that happens with his characters. And as I say, the world that he creates is very well actualized, and the stories are entertaining. There's some intellectual character development, so that sort of feeds your intellect. Plus, there is obviously a nice bit of action going in there. So if you like more action, he's done a really nice balance. It doesn't feel like it's just a hack and slash, fantasy that is just all about battles and combat. There's actually humans involved with this and the human emotions. So I get very connected to his characters. I care for them. I want to know what's happened to them. I want to, feel for them when they're going through bad luck, or when they're on top, when they're winning. I want them to win. I really do enjoy reading what George R.R. Martin has done, and this is a great companion piece to the novel. So yeah, it really filled that spot for me, because I've read the books quite a while ago now, and I'm kind of craving reading more. I wanted to know more. Now there are plans for him to do, I think, 2 more of these novellas in the future. Well, I think he's had to put them on ice at the moment, because obviously he's finishing off book 6 as we talk. Well, I hope he is anyway, because I need to read more. And so yeah, I would thoroughly recommend these books. They're delightful stories. It's just a nice glimpse again into the world of Westeros without too much political intrigue going on. They're very easy to follow, which obviously Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire can be quite complex with the way that he's written them and the political intrigue that's going on. So definitely check out what is it called? A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I was going to say a Hedge Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Well, hey, I think originally these are titled Dunk and Egg. Anyway, whatever the title, check them out. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's easy to remember now when it's right in front of me. One thing I did forget, though, is that it's illustrated, yes, by Gary Gianni. And they are delightful. I'm not 100% sure how well you can see that, but there's beautiful illustrations. They're very detailed and they fit perfectly this type of story. They're black and white line drawings and they are beautiful. And they really complement the novellas. And I really love it when they put like little illustrations in. It just adds a bit more atmosphere to the whole reading experience. Really, really enjoy those as well. Thank you so much for watching. We have got other reviews, a few other novels by George R.R. Martin, so you can check them out. And we also have done the books, A Song of Ice and Fire. We've also done the board game, A Game of Thrones. So check those out on our YouTube channel. And obviously you can follow us on all the usual social media. And once again, remember, keep it unreal, especially if you're a Hedge Knight.